Hello, welcome to Learning Life Podcast. My name is Tadisha, and I'm so glad you're here. This is a safe place where we can both learn and unlearn a lot of things about life. Let's get started. Welcome back to Learning Life Podcast. I'm Tadisha, and today I wanted to share this powerful message. And to be honest with you, this week I had some trouble thinking about what I would talk about. I kind of thought I would talk about this Bible passage, then I would do another one, and then I couldn't make up my mind. So I ended up having to record this one last minute. But I think this is a message that I should share. So I want to start off with this verse. It's in Isaiah 55, verse 8, New International Version. For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. And that verse is basically revealing that sometimes we as human beings, we can get so caught up in our own thinking, in our own knowledge, that we, instead of coming up to God's level, and the thing is sometimes we don't even know that we need to seek and build our understanding with God. We actually bring God down to our level, and we're like, this plan should work because I think that this should go this way, and I plan to do this. And we go to God and we ask God to do things a certain way. And sometimes that is usually not what God wants you to do. A lot of times we want to do our own thing. I've done this. And you don't go to God to ask him, well, God, what is it that you want to do in my life? Because I can do a whole lot of stuff and it could be successful and it may not be successful, but I can do a whole lot of things. And instead of going to God and seeking him out for what we should do, we just make our own plans. So this verse is saying God's ways are better than anything that we can plan, anything that we can do. The thing is, sometimes we get so caught up in ourselves, in our daily lives, we start to push God and just do our own thing. So I want to go into another verse that really speaks to this, and it's in Genesis chapter 22. And it is when Abraham hears from God, and God commands Abraham to sacrifice his only son, Isaac. And of course, most people know about this passage, but it's a very, very deep and it's very deep, and it's a metaphor, and it is a kind of pre-revelation of Jesus. Okay. So Abraham and Sarah could not have children. And it isn't until they're very, very old that God blesses them with one son named Isaac. Okay. Now, one day God comes to Abraham and tells him, take your son, your only son whom you love, and go to the region of Moriah and sacrifice him there as a burnt offering on a mountain that I will show you. Okay, this is all in Genesis chapter 22. And it says, the next morning, early the next morning, Abraham got up and he prepared everything and he went on his way. He didn't tell his wife, he didn't tell any of his people. He just immediately went and started to obey God. And the interesting thing is that it took 3 days. It was a 3-day journey. And when Abraham got to the top of the mountain, at a certain point, he told his servants to stay behind, and it was just him and Isaac. And I want to add is Isaac is he is a he is symbolic of Jesus. And if you notice, it takes 3 days for them to journey. It is symbolic of Jesus at the crucifixion. It was 3 days. He was killed and then he came back to life. He was resurrected on the third day, right? So this is symbolic of Jesus. Isaac represents Jesus. And so Abraham could have immediately denied God. Understand this was his only son, his only heir. To kill his only son meant that he has no living, uh, he has no children to inherit his wealth, his name, or anything. And can I say this? If you put this in modern times, think about it. I think most of us have a relationship with God that is, don't take it personal when I say this, is one day is like this and another day is like that. And I experience this as well. So one day your faith is strong, another day it seems like it's not as good as it could be. You may even fail. And what I want to add is that if you heard God tell you to sacrifice something that you really loved, most likely you would even question, was that God? You would start to say, maybe that wasn't God. But Abraham has such a close relationship with God that he didn't even question it. He just immediately woke up the next morning and he was going to go and do it. It's a powerful story and message about obedience as well, because he could have in his heart said, this is my only son. And he would have been, in a way, idolizing his son. So it's so, so deep. Because when we get the things we want, we tend to make it more important than God, you know? If God blesses you with uh, anything good, we sometimes will make that thing more important than God. You cannot forgive the giver of the gift. And that's funny because, in real life, think about it. Why would you get so caught up and the physical things around you instead of realizing that God is the creator of all those things? But we tend to do that because that's just how life is. You get caught up in the daily motion and all that. So anyways, Abraham had faith and he went on that mountain and he was going to do what God commanded him to do. And he went to the top of the mountain and he was about to sacrifice Isaac. And Isaac spoke to his father and he said, we have everything, the fire and the wood, except for the lamb for the burnt offering. And I love this part in chapter 22, verse 8. Abraham answered Isaac and said, God himself will provide the lamb for the burnt offering. And that's a beautiful passage because that is exactly what happened. God himself provided the lamb for the burnt offering. That is Jesus. And so it's like Abraham had a prophetic uh, message when he said that to his son. He didn't even know it. So Abraham is about to slay his son. And then the angel says to Abraham, do not touch your son. God has provided the lamb for you. And the ram was caught in the thicket. So I wanted to really go into more detail about this, but for time's sake, I just have to leave it at this point. But the beauty and the blessing in this message is that sometimes we get so caught up in the things that we have that we can start to idolize those things and get more caught up in what God blesses us with instead of thanking God for that blessing. And so this passage is showing us the heart posture of Abraham is that he was always about serving God. And that's really tough. But God knew Abraham. And this Abraham is the only man in the Bible, I think, that is called the friend of God. So, that's something in itself very special. So I just want you to grasp this concept. Sometimes in life it can get so difficult and we get caught up in the things we have and we hold on to them. And that could have just as easily been Abraham's case because that was his only son. So, if that's your only son, you would hold on to him. And for God to ask him to sacrifice his only son was about seeing how much Abraham loved the son over God. Isn't this something? So I hope this message blessed you. Please don't forget to like, comment if you have anything you want to say, and share this. Okay, until next week's episode, take care, stay blessed. This is Learning Life Podcast. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope that you learned something, that you enjoyed this episode. If you want to support this podcast, please subscribe. Thank you so much. See you next week.